A billionaire lay hopeless in a hospital bed, until a young black doctor did something no one expected. What happened next shocked the entire world, and changed both their lives forever. You won't believe how this story ends. Dr. Elijah Brooks, a young black physician with a heart full of compassion, walked into room 402 of the prestigious Eastbridge Medical Center. On the hospital bed lay Margaret Langston, a reclusive billionaire known for her cold demeanor and vast empire. She was critically ill, battling a rare autoimmune disease that had paralyzed most of her body. Many doctors had already given up hope, treating her like a lost cause. But Dr. Brooks didn't believe in lost causes, he believed in people. Despite her wealth and status, he saw a human being in need. He gently spoke to her even though she couldn't respond, believing that kindness was also medicine. His colleagues mocked his effort, calling it a waste of time. But he showed up daily, adjusting medications, cleaning wounds, and speaking with care. What he didn't know was that someone else was listening and watching. Margaret's only child, Vanessa Langston, secretly watched Dr. Brooks through the observation window almost every day. She had been suspicious of every doctor before, but something about Elijah's sincerity touched her. "He treats her like a person, not a project," she once whispered. Elijah continued to care for Margaret diligently, ignoring the skeptical whispers from fellow doctors. He began experimenting, with permission, using a new blend of therapies and immune-boosting treatments. Nurses noticed small signs first. Margaret's eyelashes fluttered slightly, her fingers twitched faintly. Elijah logged every tiny improvement with joy, though others dismissed them as muscle reflexes. But he didn't give up, not for a moment. "She's still in there," he told Vanessa with a quiet smile. That belief was about to be rewarded. On a quiet Sunday morning, Elijah entered the room and softly greeted Margaret like always. He placed a fresh bouquet of lilies by her bed, her favorite, something he learned from her daughter. As he gently unwrapped her bandage, Margaret's hand suddenly jerked. Elijah froze, unsure if he imagined it. Then her lips moved slightly, and a faint, broken whisper escaped, "Thank you." His eyes widened in disbelief. "Margaret. Can you hear me?" he asked softly. The monitors began to spike, signaling activity the hospital hadn't seen in months. Nurses rushed in, stunned as the once lifeless woman slowly turned her head toward Elijah. The news traveled through the hospital like wildfire. The billionaire had awakened. A week after her awakening, Margaret called Elijah into her private recovery room. Sitting up in bed, she spoke with more strength each day. "You gave me back my life," she said plainly. "But more than that, you reminded me what compassion looks like." Elijah smiled, humbly brushing off her praise. That's when she revealed her decision. She was rewriting her will. Everyone assumed her fortune would go solely to her daughter and business empire. But she had other plans. "I want to fund a hospital," she said, "a new one, built in underserved black communities. And I want you, Dr. Brooks, to run it." Elijah sat in stunned silence, barely able to breathe. The announcement stunned the world. Media outlets covered the story of the billionaire who woke from a coma and entrusted her legacy to a humble black doctor. Some called it controversial, others called it revolutionary. Vanessa stood by her mother's decision, saying, "Dr. Brooks deserves this more than anyone." Margaret's legal team confirmed the changes, naming Elijah the director of the soon-to-be-built Langston Brooks Medical Center. The medical board held an emergency meeting and offered Elijah a prestigious title at Eastbridge. But he politely declined. "My purpose is clear now," he told them. "I'm Goy." Months later, the groundbreaking ceremony of the Langston Brooks Medical Center drew crowds from all over. Elijah stood beside Margaret, both of them smiling with quiet pride. Cameras flashed, but he focused on the crowd, local kids, families, and future doctors. He spoke passionately about healing, hope, and how every life matters, regardless of wealth or status. Margaret, now fully recovered, gave her own speech, crediting her survival to one man's kindness. "He saw me," she said. "Not the billions, not the illness, just me." The audience rose in a standing ovation. Elijah's eyes welled up, not from pride, but from gratitude. Inside the hospital, things were different now. Young black doctors were being hired, mentored, and supported. Elijah made sure no patient was overlooked because of race, class, or condition. Nurses were trained not only in medicine but in empathy. Vanessa became a frequent donor, supporting programs for single mothers and struggling families. Margaret visited regularly, sharing her story with patients and encouraging them to keep fighting. The hospital became a sanctuary, a symbol of what could happen when humanity led the way. And Dr. Brooks remained its steady heartbeat, humble yet unwavering. Years passed, but the story of the billionaire and the doctor never faded. Medical schools taught it as an example of ethical excellence and human dignity. Elijah became a national figure, though he never sought the spotlight. He often reminded students, miracles don't always need magic. Sometimes, they just need patience. Margaret lived to see thousands of lives transformed through her foundation. She often joked, "Elijah saved me twice, first my life, then my soul." The two remained close, their bond built not on wealth or status, but on something deeper, respect and shared purpose. And together, they showed the world that compassion could move mountains. After the show, reporters swarmed to learn more about the mysterious boy. Miles' mother stepped forward and shared their story. "He's never had formal training," she said, holding back tears. "He taught himself by watching YouTube videos and listening to music." They lived in a small apartment and barely made ends meet. Miles had found a broken flute in a thrift store and taught himself to fix it. Every day, he practiced by ear, mimicking classical pieces he heard online. His natural ear for music had always amazed her, but this was beyond anything she imagined. The world now wanted to know, who is Miles Carter, and where did this gift come from? Within 24 hours, the video of Miles' performance went viral. News outlets called him the flute prodigy. Offers for music scholarships poured in from top academies. Celebrities tweeted about him, and music schools across the country invited him to perform. Gregory Lane personally offered to mentor Miles and fund his education. Music companies sent new instruments, and even the mayor of the city invited him to perform at a gala. But through it all, Miles stayed grounded. He still practiced in the small living room of their apartment. And every time he picked up the flute, he remembered the day he was laughed at, and how he turned it into applause. A legacy begins. Years later, Miles Carter would stand on that same stage as a renowned flautist. He would tell the story of the day someone laughed at him, and how it changed his life. Schools would invite him to inspire kids, especially those told they couldn't achieve greatness. Gregory Lane, now retired, would proudly attend every one of Miles' major concerts. The boy who once held a flute with trembling hands had now become a legend. Not because of where he came from, but because he never gave up on what he loved. And whenever anyone asked how it all began, he'd smile and say, with one note, and one man's doubt. And so, the music played on.